Hi there, Natalie Parsons here with Tracking the Tropics. Our Hank Allen took the day off, so I'm here holding down the fort, kind of doing things a little bit different with our setup. If you would like to get a little peek at behind the scenes, I have a Facebook Live going over here where you can actually ask me some questions and I'll answer them in real time for you. It can be anything weather related, hurricane tropic related, and I just want to have a conversation with you all. So moving right along, we continue through hurricane season 2026. We are about right over here. May was before the season kicked off. Hurricane season kicked off on June 1st, and little by little we are getting closer and closer to the peak point of the season, which is going to be in September. From September to October, that's going to be when the most hurricanes on record usually occur. So for now, though, it is usually on the quieter side, so you can take a sigh of relief. Of course, Mother Nature every now and then likes to go changing things up, but for now, it's on the quieter side. So if you don't have that hurricane kit ready, you don't have your hurricane evacuation plan already, now is definitely the time to go doing it while the tropics in our neck of the woods, usually are on the quieter side. But speaking of, let's take a look at some satellite. You see all the weather things right there. Zooming into our neck of the woods, the Atlantic Basin, the National Hurricane Center is saying that over the next 7 days, they are not expecting any sort of tropical cyclone activity or tropical development. But when it does come to the Pacific Ocean, well, actually, getting back to this, one of the things that are helping us to not necessarily see that tropical development, and this is Kurt Spring's favorite thing besides golf, the Saharan Dust. And I know that many of you also like it as well. You could see it's just getting closer and closer to our neck of the woods. Right now it is passing, actually by the time we get to Friday, it is going to go passing through parts of Florida, little bit of dust action between Texas and Louisiana. And then little by little, getting into the weekend, we'll see a bit more. Going to be heavier across areas like, say, Miami, parts of those areas, and also the Caribbean and whatnot. And then look at this. We have that big batch that's going to be coming into our area by the time we get to next Tuesday as of 1 a.m. And it's just going to be hanging out there for a little bit. And then it'll kind of scoot on out, giving us a little break heading into Wednesday. And then it will be coming back a little bit into later on in the week. But taking a look at the Pacific, this is a spot that we continue to go monitoring because this area, as I say, tends to be a little poppin'. They've had a lot of areas that they were keeping an eye on. That pink area is kind of, the graphic is having a little mood swing right now, but we're gonna work with it anyway. There is a few areas that the National Hurricane Center is keeping an eye on, and you can actually come out of that graphic, so I could go pointing it out to our friends. There's a few spots. One of them is actually right off the coast of Mexico. It's a low pressure system that is expected to form late this weekend or early next week. That's several hundred miles south of the coast of southwest Mexico. Gradual development is possible after that time as the system moves gradually west-northwestward. The formation chances in this area that is right off the coast of Mexico, the next 48 hours is going to be 0%, and then over the next 7 days, it's going to be 30%. So pretty minimal, but definitely something to keep an eye on, especially being that this area is just continuing to see lots of tropical development. And then if you look towards the left side of the screen where you see more action in this graphic, that's another spot that we're keeping an eye on. The National Hurricane Center is saying that a trough of low pressure is located well to the southeast to the Hawaiian Islands and is currently producing disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Environmental conditions appear favorable for additional development of this system later this week into the weekend, and a tropical depression could go forming by that time as the system goes moving westward to west-northwestward across the central Pacific, remaining south of the Hawaiian Islands. So this one has the potential to go moving south of the Hawaiian Islands, so they are definitely keeping an eye on this area. Formation chances through the next 48 hours for this area is at 10%, and then over the next 7 days, It's at a medium chance of formation. Our newscast director just said aloha. 50% chance of formation. So these are two spots that we're going to be keeping an eye on, and definitely continuing to take a look at things. One of the things that are very much contributing to the weather that we're seeing is El Nino. We've been talking a lot about this, but it's worth visiting, especially being that in the Pacific that we just continue to see lots of chances of possible formation. So you have that air that's just pushing things further and further into the Pacific Ocean. However, in certain years, trade winds go weakening, pushing warmer water off the coast of South America. And so that's why we're seeing lots of development and, you know, areas to keep an eye on in these spots. It's actually right there, and that's because of the trade winds and the warmer water off the coast of South America. And then continuing to take a look at the potential patterns from El Nino, this is very much what we're seeing. You know, in the northwestern portion of the country, we have that warm situation. And then in the Appalachian Mountain area region, they tend to be dry. But we have definitely been seeing the impacts of El Nino with it being so wet. It's just, we've seen so much rain. I know our Mississippi counties have absolutely had enough. But lately, it seems like over the last few days, our South Shore friends in the coastal areas have been the ones who have really seen a lot of the rainfall. And we'll talk a little bit further about that, of course, in terms of the forecast over the next few days, because we're having that, you know, typical summertime pattern where you have some sunshine, but then you have some storms in the mix as well. And then after the break, we're going to actually go talking about La Nina, and we'll kind of go comparing the two different patterns so you can kind of understand exactly what people, whether folks go talking about in terms of what the two mean and how they can go impacting, because regardless of which, you know, El Nino or La Nina, it does go impacting you. So don't go anywhere. Make sure you stay with us, of course, because we're going to go talking about La Nina next. We're going to go talking a little bit more about the tropics, some specifics as to how you can go preparing yourself for, you know, what could potentially arrive later on this season. And then, of course, I'm going to go walking you through, giving you an idea as to the rest of your Tuesday, and then also the rest of the week, because many of you have outdoor plans, being that this is the peak of, it is the dog days of summer, and many of you want to go getting out and about. You may go taking to the beach. We'll talk rip currents. We'll also talk about the beach flag warning system, which is a great thing to go knowing about. So you're definitely going to want to go staying with us. So lots to go talking about on today's Tracking the Tropics. It is Tuesday. We're kicking things off. Hank Allen is off today, but I'm holding things down, so we'll be right back. Hey, Natalie Parsons here. We are tracking the tropics, chatting everything weather, hurricane season 2026, and everything that you should be knowing. Right before we went into break, we were talking about El Nino and just the patterns that we go seeing in terms of that. You could see here once again, revisiting what we were talking about before the break. You have the warmer temperatures to the northwest, the coastal areas, all in the wetter category, which we've definitely seen. We have some dry situations in the Appalachian Mountains, and then that polar jet on the cooler side for our friends up in the Northeast. And, you know, just to kind of further verify the fact that we've been so wet this year, taking a look at the drought monitor, this is going to be updated as of Thursday this week. This was from this past Thursday. You could see that at one point in time, a few months ago, we were dealing with significant drought conditions. Our South Shore friends were in the extreme category, and it seemed like no matter, you know, how much rain we got, it just was not enough to improve the situation. And now we're at the point where we've seen just an uptick in rain, that our North Shore friends, our Mississippi counties, a good chunk of the South Shore is no longer seeing drought conditions, but still our friends out in Terrebonne, Lafourche Parish, coastal Plaquemines Parish, they continue to see some abnormally dry and even moderately dry conditions. And with the rain that we've seen just in the last 24 hours, we could even go taking a look at that right now. Why not? Because we've seen some rain. This is not tropical related in any capacity, but it's all relative. We're gonna do a little zoom, do a little refresh. Let's see how much rain that we have gotten in the last 24 hours. So Plaquemines Parish, about 4 inches of rain. Not too shabby. taking the drought monitor into consideration and the different colors that we were seeing, roughly about 2 inches under for this time of year. So the fact that this area is seeing 3.5 inches of rain in the last 24 hours, and we probably have a little bit more over the next few days, I would not be surprised if this week fully goes washing out the drought situation along the South Shore. But getting back to our conversation about El Nino and La Nina, gonna get right back into it. Here we go. All right, so La Nina, so you can kind of go comparing the two. You have normal trade winds, which go blowing east to west, push warm surface waters towards Asia. And then, however, in certain years, trade winds are stronger than usual, causing cooler water to surface in the eastern Pacific. So what this will go doing is actually making it so the Pacific does not see as many tropical developments and things like they are. So it's quite the opposite of El Nino. And then giving you a broader idea as to the impacts of La Nina, you would have a dry and warm coastal south, which we are definitely not seeing. Our friends in the northwest would be on the cooler side, and then you have Washington, parts of California, and Oregon that are going to be on the wetter side. The Appalachian Mountains would be on the wetter side, and that polar vortex would just be absolutely bigger. You could just see that it stretches a majority from the northwest all the way into the Midwest. So this is very much not the situation that we are seeing right now at all, but it's worth knowing. With a La Nina, we would have more tropical development in the Atlantic and then also in the Gulf, whereas with El Nino, we're seeing more of the chance of tropical development in the Pacific. So let's take a look at where we are at this point. So in terms of names, many, many names here. Hopefully none of them ever come to be. That is the goal. Arthur, we had, Arthur was kind of short-lived. We had that little bit of tropical storm status. Then right before it came to us, it turned into a post-tropical cyclone. But Arthur is a name that was given out, so bye-bye, Arthur, never again, thank you. But we have other names that we could potentially go contending with. And then also taking a look at the hurricane season outlook. In terms of the named storms, 14 is average. The Colorado State University as well as NOAA both say that we're going to have slightly lower than average. NOAA is actually thinking the range is a little bit bigger, thinking maybe 8 to 14. Then in terms of hurricanes, average is 7. You have Colorado State University saying 6, and then NOAA saying 3 to 6. And then major hurricanes, that's going to be a category 3 or up. They're saying average is 3, but CSU is saying 2, and then NOAA is saying 1 to 3. But you know what, we're going to go talk into some important things in terms of summertime. You know, many of you want to go to the beach, especially in the Gulf, or maybe if you're going to go to Florida. And the beach flag warning system is a great system to let you know what the current status is in terms of the water. Because you don't want to go in rough water, and you sure as heck don't want to go swimming by yourself or where there is no lifeguard on duty. You could go getting yourself into trouble. So just talking about the colors, there's quite the array. You have purple, which stands for dangerous marine pests, and we're talking those jellyfish, the stingrays, etc. The green is going to be low hazard. Things are pretty calm, and so that is safe to go swimming in. Then we have this orange, which stands for medium hazard, moderate surf, and or conditions. And then we also have a few others to go letting you know about. You have one red flag that stands for high hazard, rough surfing conditions, and the double red stands for the waters are closed to the public. No way, Jose, not happening today. And then if you see a flag that is like a square of red and then black in the middle, usually those go up. You see one if there is a tropical storm warning, and then you see 2 of those if there is a hurricane warning, and usually the waters are very, very, very dangerous. You do not want to go swimming. But some of our crazy surf friends, you may be feeling a little daring. I remember there was something going on in the tropics in the Atlantic when I was living in North Carolina, and little Ginger and I, we went to one of the beaches along the coast, the northern Outer Banks area, and there were some surfers out there who were enjoying the rough surf. Be smart, be safe, don't be daring, don't, you know, be dangerous with your life because it's precious. So, you know, but this is definitely something to be aware of when it comes to doing some swimming and whatnot. We also can go talking about the rip currents. Hold on, let's see where they are. Because that's another thing that you may come across. I know that it was a bigger issue when I lived in the Carolinas. Not so much here off the coast of Louisiana, just the way that the water is in the Gulf, it's just different here. You may come across some slight rip current issues over at the Alabama beaches and also the panhandle of Florida, and definitely all around Florida this can potentially be an issue. So we will definitely go talking about this. If you plan on going swimming at the Alabama beaches or even the panhandle beaches over the next few days, they currently have a low risk for rip currents. So we'll talk about what the signs are, how you can go escaping them, and just how you can go being safe, of course, after the break. So don't go anywhere. Stay with us. This is Tracking the Tropics. Welcome back. This is Tracking the Tropics with Natalie Parsons. Our Hank Allen has a day off, so you're partying with me. Here we go. So we've been kind of chatting about a variety of different things in terms of hurricane season, the tropics, and of course, if you plan on checking out the beaches this summer, a few things to go keeping you and your family safe. Right before we went to break, I was mentioning rip currents. We also have a Facebook Live going over here, so if you have any questions or things that you want to go knowing about, come on over, join the party behind the scenes. It's a grand old time. But anyways, getting back to tracking rip currents, getting right into things here. So when you go to the beach, there are different currents, and you have one that is going to go rushing water out to sea, and that's what people really go getting into trouble. It can go actually pulling you out, and it can get very, very strong, and it can even go taking some of the strongest people, strongest swimmers out to sea and getting them into trouble. So in the event that you go getting stuck, let's go talking about some of the tips. Don't go fighting the current. Swim parallel to the shore to escape the current. If you can't go escaping, be sure to go floating or try treading the water. If you need help, call or wave for assistance. This is one of those very, very important reasons why if there's no lifeguard on duty, do not swim there. Do not think about going to the beach by yourself because God forbid anything happens, you will be in trouble. And then especially if we have any of the more severe, moderate beach flag warnings in place, you really don't want to go swimming. So I'm just going to reread these again. Don't go fighting the current. Swim parallel to the shore to escape the current. If you can escape, float or tread the water. And then if you need help, call or wave for assistance. You know, make some noise so people know that you are in distress and that you really do need some help. And something else that we need to go talking about in terms of hurricane season, we haven't really mentioned this at all in this series, so let's go talking about it. It is called the contraflow. When a hurricane is heading in our neck of the woods and things need to be evacuated, some of the roads that we have in interstates are going to be essentially doing lane reversals. That's what they were called in the Carolinas, but here they're called the contraflow. And so talking about specific interstates and roadways that will be impacted, we have Interstate 10, which usually travels east and west. With the contraflow, you will only be able to travel westbound. The normal entrances for New Orleans, Metairie, Kenner can still be used, but once again, this is Interstate 10. You will only be able to travel westbound. All right, and so another one, Interstate 55 usually goes traveling north and south, but with the contraflow, it's only going to go northbound from Hammond through the Mississippi state line, and you'll only have 2 exits. We're talking exit 47 in Amite, and then also exit 61 out in Kentwood. So once again, Interstate 55 during a contraflow will only go northbound. All right, and then we have Interstate 12, which usually travels east and west. With the contraflow, it will only go westbound, but once it runs into I-55, it will switch to northbound. So that's Interstate 12, going only westbound during the contraflow, and then once it runs into I-55, it'll go northbound. All right, so taking a look at this one, we have US Highway 190. Usually travels east and west. With the contraflow, it will only go westbound. And important note here, you will not have access to US Highway 190 and I-12. When a contraflow is in place. So once again, US Highway 190, only going to go westbound with the contraflow. And then we have Interstate 59. Usually this one travels north and south, with the contraflow will only go northbound, specifically north of the I-10, I-12, I-59 interchange. Okay, so Interstate 59, only going to go northbound, specifically north of I-10, I-12, I-59 interchange. And then here we go. So we recently got this new capability where I can go take in some of your weather images. I couldn't go ending the show without mentioning this. You know I geek out for all things weather, and I absolutely love seeing your images. I get a lot of images from my friends still out in the Carolinas, also out in North Dakota, but I'd like to be able to show Southeast Louisiana and Southern Mississippi a little bit of love. So if if we have a weather event and you capture some amazing imagery and you want to go sharing it, you could scan the QR code here right now. You could also visit Wgno.com and look for the tab that says Report It. Or if you have the Wgno News and Weather app, you can check it out also on there and submit directly through that. And I am constantly looking to see what folks are submitting to us. I mean, here is one image that we got from Miss Amanda Lynn out in Slidell. This is an image from all the flooding that this area saw in terms of that Arthur-ish / severe weather event that we had a few weeks back in June. Thank you so much for sending us this picture. This flooding still blows my mind. I cannot believe what ended up happening from that particular weather event. And so definitely continue to send us images. Once again, you can do it either by scanning the QR code, you can visit Wgno.com and look for Report It, or you can do it directly through the Wgno Weather and News app. So keep that in mind. And then just, giving you a general idea as to the weather situation in our neck of the woods right now. Taking a look at the radar, we did have some rain in the forecast, and we knew that we were going to have some, but right now you can see that there's just little isolated storms that are inching closer and closer into our neck of the woods. At one point I did see a severe thunderstorm warning in effect to the west of us, and I was curious if we were going to go seeing it, but it looks like the storms have kind of simmered down a little bit before coming into our area. We still have this one that's closer to the Louisiana Texas border and whatnot. But in terms of rain chances here for the rest of the evening, giving you an idea, it's going to be a bit of a quieter day than we were initially expecting. Yesterday was looking pretty widespread, but it's proven to not be that. Mother Nature actually decided to give us a break. So I think we'll definitely go taking it. And then of course there is some additional rain on the way for the rest of the week. I will say, I have been watching this since the weekend, and it just continuously goes changing. The one thing that I will say is that it does look like over the last few days there's been consistency in the models in terms of Saturday, Sunday, and then into the upcoming week being at the widespread status. So you may want to go really considering not possibly being outside as much. So widespread, and it's looking like likely to be widespread on Sunday. And then in terms of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's kind of more of the scattered nature and whatnot, but that's also kind of been going back and forth a little bit too. Of course, we'll go walking you through a little bit more detail in terms of your hour by hour and what is to come for tonight, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and your weekend. You have Kerrigan in the morning, you have Hank the rest of the week at night, and then you have me on the weekends, and we will definitely go keeping you posted both on air and online in terms of everything you need to know. But as always, this is Tracking the Tropics. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and of course, Hank and I will be with you next week.